Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, let me first of all thank Mr. Bustamante, Special Rapporteur on the Human Rights of Migrants, through you, for his useful report and update. Mr. President, migration and human rights are increasingly major issues of concern for the international community today. There is an estimated 200 million migrants world over, women accounting for half this number. The time has no doubt come for the international community and for the peoples of the world to revisit and re-emphasize their basic human obligation to fellow human beings who are migrants, migrant workers, and members of their families. For this purpose, there is an urgent need to focus on a rights-based approach for labor migration with a view to preventing any room for treating labor migrants as commodities. At present, migrant workers, Mr. President, and members of their families suffer mostly from the lack of focus on a rights-based approach in international migration. We need to recognize unequivocally that migrant workers and their families, above all, are human beings with rights and are active agents in every society, developing or developed, working and contributing towards their progress and economic well-being. Mr. President, the question of migrants in the first place, therefore, must be approached from a perspective of rights in line with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and obligations under core human rights treaties, in particular the Migrant Workers Convention. Mr. President, the Migrant Workers Convention is a broad-based instrument. It aims at assisting governments in developing strategies to prevent illegal migration movements. Part 4 of the Convention contains provisions on the promotion of sound, equitable, humane and lawful conditions in connection with international migration. Despite the intrinsically progressive nature of the Convention, Mr. President, ratification remains far below expectations. Parties to the Convention are still predominantly labor-sending states. It is unfortunate that no Western state has yet signed or ratified the Convention. This brings us the question as to why the Convention has met with insufficient enthusiasm on the part of many states, especially those states that usually champion human rights issues. Therefore, Mr. President, at the time when we are preparing to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in December 2008, I have two questions for the Special Rapporteur through you, Mr. President. One, what measures the United Nations and its partners should take with a view to advocate and promote a rights-based approach for migrants? Secondly, what steps the UN and its stakeholders, including NGOs and civil society organizations, should take to urge states that did not sign and ratify the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families to do so? I thank you, Mr. President.